Team reporter Olivia Landis here with NFL Network's Peter Schrager. Peter, the Jets just last week finally agreed to terms for their new head coach. The head coaching search is over. They hired former defensive coordinator San Francisco 49ers Robert Saleh as their next head coach. Can you talk a little bit about who he is as an individual?
I've gotten to know Robert really well over the last probably 5 years. Knowing the San Francisco organization very well, being friendly with Kyle Shanahan, I've been kind of let into the doors on some of what they're doing there in San Francisco. And Saleh has just jumped off the page to me since the first moment I met him. And what you learn from Saleh is that he's this fiery, energetic, high enthusiasm guy on the sidelines, but he's a very calm, sweet, gentle man off the field. And he connects with other men and women in a way that few I've ever seen do it before. I think his story is really interesting. Lebanese American. He was training to be a financial analyst, was making something like, $80,000, $100,000 a year working in the finance sector. His brother was working at, I believe, Morgan Stanley in the South Tower during 9/11. And his brother was outside the building when the planes hit and called home and was like, I'm safe, I'm good. And it was a wake-up call to Robert, who was back in Michigan working in a cubicle in 2001 and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Life is too short. I want to be a football coach. That was 20 years ago. Went on this incredible path. And along the way has picked up great admirers, but also has picked up tips from everyone from Mike Shanahan to Kyle Shanahan to some of the great defensive players he's worked with, whether it be a Richard Sherman or even the young guns like a Nick Bosa or a Eric Armstead. This is someone who wants to be the coach of the Jets. And from what I believe was the first coach hired in this coaching search. And if you're a Jets fan, know that there were other teams who were very interested. And he went out of his way to say he connected so well with Christopher Johnson and with Joe Douglas and with Jaime Elhai, who is the president of the Jets, that this was his number one destination. This isn't him settling on the Jets. He wanted to be the Jets head coach. And with him comes a ton of enthusiasm and, more importantly, a ton of respect.
What went into that change and adjustment for him? Because going from that to an NFL head coach is a very long road.
Yeah. I mean, he started off as a graduate assistant at Michigan State. He just was a run. He was a run, and he worked his way up. And when Gary Kubiak took the job in 2006 with the Houston Texans, after his press conference, Gary Kubiak famously walks by a room and sees someone at a desk just writing things, and it's this like 20-year-old kid, and he comes in, he's like, what are you doing? And Robert Saleh said, I want to be the hardest working, most dedicated individual on this coaching staff, and I will do anything if you keep me around. Kubiak decided right then and there, you've got a spot on my staff. If you're here in the off season during my coaching announcement, if you're here doing the work, you have a spot on my staff. And he has done that kind of stuff the whole way through. And he slowly but surely went from low-level coach to assistant coach to finally being the defensive coordinator in San Francisco, where Kyle Shanahan basically handed him the keys and said, I'm going to worry about the offense. You do the defense and you do your thing. And you only have to listen to a Richard Sherman praise him. And go Google Richard Sherman and Robert Saleh. Basically, Richard Sherman spent his 2020 season saying what a great injustice it was that Saleh wasn't already an NFL head coach.
Joe Douglas didn't even formally meet him. So what does that say about his character, Robert Saleh's character, that he wowed them so much that they didn't feel like they needed to previously meet him? It was already a done deal.
I almost feel like it says more about the Jets. Like it says more about Joe Douglas, because in this league, and I've covered it a long time, a lot of times it's who you know and what you're comfortable with and what you're going to protect your butt with. So Joe Douglas has connections all over the league. There's a bunch of guys who have worked with him, whether he was in Chicago, Philly, or Baltimore. Could have gone to any resource of former colleague and the guys that he's bled with and all that. He met Robert Saleh for the first time last Friday on a Zoom. Saleh comes in the following Wednesday and is the head coach of the Jets by Friday morning. Joe Douglas has been working his entire life to be a GM, becomes a GM. This is his first coaching hire, and he's hiring someone who he met 6 days ago, not someone who he's got 20 years of friendship with. I think that's commendable. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If anything, it's refreshing. I think too often in this league, teams or GMs will hire guys that they know just because it's safe and that, hey, we've been through before. We don't have to start a relationship. I know that I'm comfortable and I'm going to be comfortable with you. I like the fact that Joe Douglas said he's the best candidate and he fits this market and this team for exactly what we need right now.
I have one more for you, Peter, before I let you go. Now that we've talked in detail about who Robert Saleh is as an individual and story and how he grew up, what can Jets fans and players especially expect from him as the next head coach?
So I think a lot of Jets fans are excited about the energy and all that. What they also might be wondering is, all right, that's great, but what the heck are we going to do on offense? He's a defensive coach. And I've spoken to Saleh, and I've also spoken to Brandon Staley, who's the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. And I've asked, this whole feeling that you need to have a young offensive coach. What about you guys being defensive coaches? And Saleh's whole pitch throughout this interview process was, I can be in every room. Like, I can go and talk to the special teams. I can go and talk to the linebackers. I could also go talk to the quarterbacks. He's going to hire offensive staff that can do wonders. He's going to have a feel for the entire building, not just, okay, the quarterback room, I need to make sure this guy's comfortable and I'm going to be calling the plays and all that stuff. No. This is a CEO. This is someone who is going to touch every level of the organization and, most importantly, every level of the team. I think Jets players are going to be ecstatic, but I also think Jets fans are going to see immediate rewards to this. This is going to be a team you're going to want to root for, and there's going to be a head coach that you're going to want to support. I think there's better days ahead for Jets fans, and I think there's better days ahead for Gang Green as a whole.